I love my fiancé, or at least I think I still do. We've been together 2.5 years. He was never perfect, but he made me feel comfortable. I never felt worried that he might leave me because he always said how much he loves me and how committed he is to making this relationship work no matter what. That's not because of some special bond that we have, unlike any he has ever had. That's just the kind of person he is. There are a few things that I really appreciate about him, but there are probably equally as many that strain our relationship. The biggest is probably just how particular he is. It inhibits every facet of our life. The foods he's willing to eat are limited. The things he enjoys doing are far different from what I enjoy. He suffers from migraines and difficulty sleeping, meaning we often abandon plans or leave events early because his head hurts or he's tired. Or maybe he's just bored. Or maybe he doesn't like any of the food there. I wouldn't consider myself the most extroverted, but I like going out to do things. However, going out is hard not just because of the various reasons I laid out, but because I am usually the only one paying. He makes significantly less than I do, and in the time we've been together, he has left every job because it either burns him out or doesn't make enough to cover more than his personal expenses. On top of that, anything I want him to do, I have to ask for explicitly. Paying for things, helping around the house, and even sharing driving duties. I hate doing this because I'm a very independent person and I dislike asking people to do things for me. I know he makes less than I do. I know doing chores is more annoying for him. Everything just feels easier for me than for him, so I find that asking him to do anything feels like putting an unnecessary burden on him. Even with all of that, I would probably still be staying with him, but our recent move to Europe has left me with a pretty stark choice. He advocated for our move here, even though I was pretty sure he would hate it. His expectation, which I did kind of set, was that we would go back to the United States as long as at least one of us didn't like it here. The thing is, I don't just like it here, I love it so far. Everything I love about it, he hates. He essentially can't function here because he dislikes the food, and the air is messing with his allergies in a way that no amount of Allegro will solve. He's given me an ultimatum. We start making plans to go back to the United States together, or he will go back by himself. The thing is, he doesn't really want to go back by himself, not just because he loves me and would miss me, but because he can't necessarily support the lifestyle he wants without my income. I'm pretty sure I could get him to stick it out here for at least another year, if not indefinitely, if I really wanted to, but I don't want to do that to him. Also, as much as I would miss him, having him back in the United States would free me up so much, and not just financially. But every fiber of my being doesn't want to tell him that it's over. If he decides it, then sure, but I don't think he will. He'll keep trying to convince me to come back with him, keep asking me if I love this country more than him. I don't want to say yes because it's more complicated than that, but I honestly don't know what to say. I don't necessarily expect not to hurt his feelings, but I'm not always gentle with my words, and I don't want whatever I have to say to come across as being mean, at least from an outside perspective. How do I communicate these feelings I have in a way that doesn't just come across as me attacking him for being who he is? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He can't support his preferred lifestyle without your money. That's a him problem, not a you problem. He's a grown-up. If he wants more money, he needs to figure that out himself, not live in your wallet like you're his personal ATM. He leaves jobs because they don't pay enough for his personal expenses. But how is quitting a paying job helping him pay his expenses? Granted, you made the promise to move back if either of you wasn't happy, but people are allowed to change their mind. What if he was happy there and you weren't? Would he be okay giving up his dream life in Europe? Something tells me no, and you'd be the one to acquiesce to make him happy. You leave events early because of him. You don't get to eat where you want because of him. The list goes on, and you know it. There is no easy way to break up with him, but you just need to be honest with yourself and with him. Being honest with yourself is admitting that he is not the love of your life. He's not even a relationship of convenience because you keep footing the bills and adapting your activities to suit him. not the other way around. At best, he might be a relationship of familiarity. Being honest with him is going to be like ripping off a Band-Aid. Honey, if you really want to go back, I'll help in any reasonable way I can, but I'm really happy here and have no plans to return. Good luck. Comment 2. You're wildly incompatible, and I think it's best you realize this now before you marry. I'm sorry to say this, but he just sounds lazy and immature, and at 28 needs to start bucking his ideas up a bit. How are chores easier for you and a burden for him? Do you really think I enjoy coming home from work after a long day to do dishes and cook? No, but I'm an adult, and these things have to be done. If he's cohabiting with you, he needs to pull his weight. He may not be as financially well off, but that doesn't render him incapable of running a vacuum and making dinner. You're carrying this relationship, and he's clearly happy to let you. Tell him to go back to the United States alone then. He can find someone else to wipe his behind. Now for the update. A couple of days after the ultimatum, I knew I had to talk to my fiancé. Honestly, I was scared to get into it with him, but I couldn't just sit around waiting for something to happen. We sat down in our tiny little kitchen, surrounded by the smell of spices from this dish I was trying to make. I don't even know what it was, but it was something to distract me from what was going on. I started off just asking how his allergies were doing and how he was handling the new environment. I was obviously looking for a little more than, "It's fine," but honestly, that's all I got. He went off about how he missed his friends back home and the food and all that stuff. I get it. We all miss home, but it's been 2.5 years. 2.5 years of this same thing over and over again. So I suggested we go to some local markets together, try to find some new foods he might like. I thought it might be fun, a little date idea or something, but he was just like, "Nah, that won't change anything. We should just go back to the US." That's when I decided to make a joke about how our little culinary adventure was a total fail. I was just trying to lighten the mood, but he didn't laugh at all. He just pointed out how serious the situation was. At that point, I was just like, oh boy, here we go. He started accusing me of not understanding how hard this move has been for him. I got all flustered and found myself stumbling over my words. All this because I made a joke about food. Like, come on. Later that week, we went to this dinner party hosted by some of my colleagues to celebrate finishing up a big project. I was looking forward to it, but he was just miserable the whole time. He barely touched the food I made, and let's be honest, he just spent most of the evening scrolling on his phone. One of my colleagues noticed and asked if everything was okay. That's when things got really bad. He snapped at her in front of everyone. I couldn't believe it. I was so embarrassed in front of my friends. We drove home in complete silence after that. The tension was so thick, you could feel it. Once we got home, he just packed a bag and said he was going to stay with some distant relative for a few days. I was trying to reason with him, but he just said he needed space to think. The next day, I got this text from him saying he needed a break from everything, including our relationship. I was just like, what the heck? A few days later, I got an unexpected call from my mom. She just wanted to check in, the usual stuff. During the call, she mentioned that my younger sister was struggling with her own relationship issues. Apparently, my sister's fiancé had a lot of the same issues mine did, and it was just really getting to her. That shifted the conversation to family dynamics, and that's when my mom shared her concerns about my fiancé. I don't want to go into all that right now, but it just sparked an idea in my mind. I thought it might be a good idea to address family expectations and relationships with my fiancé. So, I reached out to my sister and invited her to visit for the weekend. I was hoping to gain a little perspective. When my sister arrived, we talked over coffee for a bit. She shared her own experiences with difficult relationships, and honestly, it was really eye-opening. That night, she encouraged me to just confront my fiancé directly about our future. So, the next day, I decided to invite him over for a serious discussion. He showed up looking tired and withdrawn, to say the least. But he agreed to talk, and honestly, that's all I could ask for. I laid out my thoughts really clearly, mentioning how I wanted us both to be happy. He listened, but he just expressed doubts about our compatibility and all the pressure he felt. At that point, I was just so over it. I brought up the idea of couples counseling, suggesting that it could give us some clarity. He hesitated for a minute, but ultimately agreed to try it out for a few sessions. We scheduled our first session, and I have to say, we were both feeling pretty uncertain but willing to explore. The sessions revealed some deeper issues, like his fear of being a burden and my desire for independence. It was tough to hear, but we needed to go through it. After a few weeks of that, we decided to plan a trip to a nearby city just to reconnect and have some fun. The trip was an eye-opener for both of us. We explored new places, and he even tried new foods without complaining. I was just like, wow, maybe there's hope for us yet. The experience gave us a chance to have more open discussions about our future, including the possibility of a wedding. We both agreed to keep working on our relationship while addressing our individual needs. So that's where we're at right now. Mini update. After the call with my mom, I decided to visit home for some family time. My parents noticed the tension and asked about it. I explained everything, and they were understanding. We discussed how they handled their own challenges, which gave me some insight. It felt good to be home and talk it out. Am I the idiot for cutting our vacation short because our drug-using friend ruined it? My husband, who is 31 years old, and I, who am also 31 years old, will go on vacation in 2 weeks. Our friends, a couple consisting of a 24-year-old woman and a 28-year-old man, will come at the same time to the same place. We initially booked the vacation for just the two of us, and then they asked if we wanted to go together. We said we had already booked, but if they found a hotel, they could come at the same time, separately with their car. They booked at the same hotel. Friendship history. We have been friends since last year. We really enjoyed their company, but I don't know what happened recently. They were so polite at the beginning, and now I think we just started to get to know each other better without barriers. They consider us family now and tell us they love us, but I have never said that back. Because those are big words, and I don't feel that. They don't have other friends except us. I just found out he is still using drugs. I knew he was doing that a few years ago, and he tried to convince my husband to try it a couple of days ago. My husband said he was very insistent. We have never tried, and I am not comfortable having people who use drugs around me. The real problem is that he is proud of that. Also, she doesn't seem bothered by it, and he is not aware of the danger. Apart from that, we mentioned something about the prices for the sunbeds and restaurants in that area, and everything seemed expensive to him. A few days later, he told my husband how much he paid for the drugs. I am thinking about canceling the vacation with them. We can still cancel for free today and booking somewhere else. It won't affect them financially. They have their own room and are going by their own car. I don't want to start a fight and would tell them there are some problems at my workplace and I need to change the dates. I really feel I need some space to think about everything. I feel drained of energy after the last conversation with them. Another option would be to still go with them, but to try to avoid them and be on our own, which is hard, honestly, because they are both the kind of people who are suffocating us. It would be hard to tell them to leave us alone. I am desperate and I need advice. What should I do? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. In your shoes, I would do the following. 1. Cancel. Absolutely. Paid time off is too precious to waste it on a vacation you'll feel you'll have a miserable time in. 2. Stop hanging out. You can start with a standard freeze out, too busy to hang out. Be very firm in your no. If you think this will offend them and start a fight, good. I am a recovering people pleaser, and this kind of stuff used to haunt me, but I've realized that while ripping the Band-Aid hurts, it feels 100 times better to be on the other side of not being around people you hate than to continue to appease them. It is liberating. Do not be afraid, unless they have shown erratic, scary behavior. If it's at that level, that might need authorities. Comment 2. They don't have other friends except us. And now you know why. I guarantee they've left a large wake of former friends and acquaintances behind them. Looks like it's your time to join them. Whatever you choose to do with regards to the trip, I think it would be best to also take action to end your friendship. I agree with everyone else. Cancel, rebook, and don't tell them about your replacement trip. If you want to be really petty, you could wait to tell them you've had to cancel at the last minute, or not at all, so they're stuck taking the original trip on their own. But the more adult thing would be to tell them now. Now, for the update. A couple days after the convo with the friends, I decided to just go through with the vacation. I figured some time away would be good for my husband and me, and honestly, I was hoping the friends would chill out a bit once we were there. Texted them to confirm plans and tried to keep the mood light, Just wanted everyone on the same page. They responded all excited and stuff, sharing their excitement about the trip. It felt like they were just as ready to go, so I was like, cool, let's do this. On the day of the departure, my husband and I drove to the hotel. We didn't have any issues on the way there, and the drive was pretty chill, just the two of us, talking about random stuff, listening to music. So, we get to the hotel, and as soon as we walk in, we see the friends already at the hotel bar. Like, how did they get there before us? We only live an hour away. Oh well, whatever. They were drinking and seemed overly friendly, straight up calling us the fam. I mean, we've only known them for a year. I tried to keep conversations casual, talking about the weather, stuff like that. But this guy just kept bringing up his past drug use, joking about it, and I didn't know how to respond. His girlfriend was all for it, laughing along and encouraging him. My husband seemed drawn into the conversation too, laughing more than usual, and it just made me feel uneasy. After the bar, we went to dinner, and that's when the guy started his antics again. He was all like, "Oh man, I remember this one time when I did this crazy thing and it was awesome." He just wouldn't stop, and I could tell it made me uncomfortable. His girlfriend was right there, eating it all up, telling him to share more stories and crap. After dinner, we headed to the hotel pool area. This guy suggested this drinking game, and I just wasn't feeling it. I declined, but my husband was all about it, wanting to bond with his friend. The guy starts saying stuff like, living life on the edge, and don't be a square. His girlfriend was like, yeah, just let loose, and I just didn't know what to do. So the next day, we went on an excursion that involved hiking and swimming. The guy was all about taking a more extreme hiking route. He was like, it'll be fun, trust me. He just wouldn't take no for an answer, so we went with it. During the hike, he tripped and fell, injuring his ankle. My husband immediately rushed to help, while his girlfriend was freaking out. We had to turn back, but this guy was struggling to keep up. I could tell he was mad too. Back at the hotel, he was agitated, starting to argue with his girlfriend. My husband tried to mediate the situation, but it just got worse. The guy started blaming me for the hike mishap, and I just couldn't believe it. My husband defended me, and it led to a heated argument between him and the guy. The girlfriend stormed off, leaving the guy alone and angry. My husband and I decided to leave the hotel for the evening to cool off. We ended up at a nearby diner where we just tried to process the chaotic day. I was feeling so drained, and honestly, I was thinking about cutting the trip short. Later that night, I got a text from the female friend apologizing for the guy's behavior. I was surprised, honestly. She told me she was embarrassed by how he acted and that he was just on edge because of his ankle. The next day, we met for breakfast, but the atmosphere was just super awkward. This guy avoided eye contact, and his girlfriend was all distant. It just made everything more uncomfortable, My husband and I decided to cut the trip short and leave a day early. We were just done with all the drama. Upon returning home, we got a call from the guy, who was furious about our early departure. My husband tried to explain, but the guy's accusations just kept escalating. He was saying we didn't care about him or his girlfriend, and it was just a lot. Things are still complicated, so I'll make sure to post an update if anything big happens. I'm just overwhelmed and honestly kind of unsure about what to do next, My husband's been trying to talk me into giving them a chance to explain and stuff, but I'm just worried it's going to lead to more of this craziness. I guess we'll see where this all goes, but for now I'm just needing a breather from all this drama. Edit. We have known the friends for over a year. The male friend has been inappropriate previously, but this vacation escalated everything. Am I the idiot for confronting my husband about his flirtatious texts with his gay best friend? My husband and I have been together for 5 years, married for 2 now, no kids. We have friends from all walks of life and have gone to different events and venues because of them. My husband has a close friend named Kane who is gay, and we have gone to the gay bar in town with him occasionally when he used to live in our town. Kane moved away to live with his boyfriend named Eric 2 years ago, and communication dropped off for a while until recently. About 2 months ago, Kane moved back to our town after breaking up with Eric and to live with his parents who live here. Every week since then, he asks my husband to go to the gay bar in town with him and 5 to 6 other gay friends. I am not invited. In the beginning, it was fine because I figured they were just having guy time. However, in the 8 weeks he has been here, he has never asked for a group hangout where I am invited. I have told my husband that Kane can come over and hang out at our house, but there's always an excuse for why he doesn't. They never can just hang out over dinner at a reasonable hour. They always have to go to the bar together, and more often than not, to the gay bar. In the beginning, it didn't bother me, but now after almost 2 months of never being asked to join, it is causing issues in our marriage. When Kane dated Eric, I was almost always invited out, but now it feels like he doesn't even want to say hello. I have told my husband it gives me a bad feeling now, but he says, "You know I'm not gay, he's just my friend," and dismisses it. I have spoken to our therapist about it, who asked my husband why we can't all have dinner together, and he says he has suggested it, but it just hasn't happened yet due to scheduling on Kane's part. The therapist also asked my husband why he and Kane don't just go out for dinner, but my husband says Kane is going through a tough time and seems to prefer the bar with his other gay friends. We have gotten into 2 arguments now over this. I am starting to resent Kane and feeling as if my husband secretly enjoys the attention he is getting from them and others at the gay bar, as he is considered very attractive. Every time they go out, he comes home later than I am comfortable with, often around 2 in the morning, and it creates tension. I don't understand why he can't just do a normal hour activity with Kane that doesn't involve getting drunk and going to the gay bar, or why I am never invited. I don't think my husband is gay, but I also don't know what to think about this whole situation. Kane is always taking pictures of them together and posting them on his close friends story with hearts. How can I navigate the situation so there's more of a compromise, such as having them come over to our house or going to a dinner at a normal hour? Our therapist suggested a group hangout, but that hasn't happened yet, and I am getting tired of bringing it up. What can I say to emphasize my point to my husband? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Honestly, I'm messy, so I would go on Grindr and offer to pay someone's bar tab if they go to the bar that night and spy on your husband. If it's truly innocent, then you need to collect yourself and move forward. But my guess is your intuition is not wrong and there is more going on. Comment 2. I hate to say it, but it's pretty clear something is up. I know you said your husband is not gay, but have you ever considered that he is bisexual? The way they are excluding you is incredibly suspicious. I think you need to delve deeper here. Now for the update. It's been just under a month since my last update, and my husband keeps going out with Kane almost every weekend. Like, I've lost track of how many weekends this has been happening. But who's counting, right? Anyway, I noticed my husband was taking longer to respond to my texts when he was out, often leaving me on read. It got to the point where I felt like I was in a group chat but not actually in it. That's how much I was being ignored. One Saturday night, I was just over it. I decided to go to a bar nearby with a couple of friends to take my mind off things. You know, just trying to enjoy myself without constantly worrying about what my husband was doing. While there, I saw my husband and Kane through the window, laughing and drinking. My heart kinda dropped, but I took a moment to gather my thoughts before approaching them. I couldn't just storm in there like some dramatic movie scene. When I entered the bar, I could hear them joking loudly, completely unaware of my presence. Honestly, it felt like I was invisible. I walked up to their table, and my husband looked surprised, but Kane grinned widely. I joined them, trying to keep the mood light, but it felt awkward, like I was that third wheel on a double date. My husband quickly shifted the conversation away from me, focusing on Kane's stories. What a surprise. I asked Kane about his job, but he brushed it aside, redirecting to a new drink he had just ordered. Classic. After a while, I excused myself, saying I had a headache. I left them there, feeling like a total outsider. The following week, I decided to host a dinner at our place, inviting Kane over in hopes of fostering a better relationship. Honestly, I thought it was a good idea. My husband seemed reluctant, but eventually agreed, claiming it would be nice to have Kane over. Sure, let's pretend this will be a wholesome family dinner. The night of the dinner, Kane showed up with a bottle of wine, and I prepared a nice meal. As we sat down, my husband kept checking his phone, which made me uneasy. Like, really? During dinner? Midway through dinner, my husband received a text and left the table to step outside. Kane smirked and commented on how my husband usually prefers to spend time away from home. I mean, wow. I challenged Kane directly, asking how he could say that when we were all together. He shrugged and suggested that some relationships need space to thrive. Oh, really, Kane? Some relationships? My husband returned, and the dinner turned awkward as I tried to steer the conversation back to safe topics. After dinner, Kane suggested we play a board game, which I agreed to, hoping to lighten the mood. During the game, I noticed my husband and Kane sharing looks that felt too intimate for friends. You know the kind of looks I mean. I decided to end the night early, telling Kane I was tired and thanking him for coming. Once Kane left, my husband asked why I was so upset, which confused me. Like, are you serious right now? I explained that I felt ignored and disrespected, but my husband dismissed my concerns. Of course, he did. Frustrated, I decided to take a stand. I began to plan my own outing with friends. I invited a close friend, Tara, to join me on a weekend trip to a nearby city. Tara was excited and suggested we stay overnight and explore the nightlife. Who says no to that? As we were getting ready, I posted a picture of us at the hotel on social media, tagging the location. I mean, it felt like the perfect thing to do, right? I noticed a few minutes later that my husband had viewed the post. So he was still alive. The next day, I received a call from my husband, furious that I had gone out without telling him. I calmly explained that he had been spending so much time with Kane that I needed to prioritize my own fun. He accused me of being petty, claiming I was trying to make him jealous. Sorry, but if the shoe fits, right? I ignored his comments and continued enjoying the trip with Tara. Upon returning home, I found my husband waiting for me, visibly upset. Like, what was he expecting? A parade? I confronted him about his late nights and his friendship with Kane. He admitted he felt there was nothing wrong with his friendship, but I could tell he was shaken by my trip. I decided to reveal that I saw his texts to Kane while he was out one night, which left him speechless. Yep, you heard that right. I explained that I would no longer sit back while he prioritized Kane over our marriage. I could see the realization hit him. It was about time. Edit. After that conversation, my husband admitted he had been hiding his texts with Kane. He claimed they were just friends, but I had seen the messages. They were too flirtatious for my comfort. He also confessed that Kane had a crush on him, which made me more uneasy. We decided to go to therapy again, this time focusing on our boundaries. I told my husband that Kane needed to step back from our lives. I hope this works. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.